What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Supper Suite at TIFF 2022 for another interview. I feel like you can already see someone sitting on this couch that conveys how excited I am about this interview and this movie. The team behind Sick, congratulations. What a ride. My God.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I don't know who wants to do the honors, John or Kevin, but you have to do this because we're at a festival and not everybody out there knows what Sick is just yet. But who would like to give a brief synopsis of your movie?
John, go for it.
Okay. Sick is from the mind of Kevin Williamson. It is the setup is a rather familiar kind of archetypal horror setup of two young women in a lake house. What makes this one unique is that it's kind of a period piece going all the way back to 2020 when we were all experiencing kind of quarantine for the first time, and it is sort of tapping into the, you know, in many ways the mindset of the kind of common paranoia hysteria. But I think that's the setup of Sick, is two young women going to quarantine together in Parker's father's lake house, and then obviously things happen at the lake house and things go sideways.
Things happen and things don't stop happening, like not for a second. We'll get to that. But you kind of gave me a good segue for a question for Kevin, because I feel like we're seeing a lot of pandemic movies, and a lot of times the response I hear is it's too soon or it's going to be dated too quickly. So how do you kind of manage those two things when you jump into writing a script like this?
We actually thought about that when we were writing it. We were like, well, is this going to be too soon? And then as we were filming it, like, oh, this is just going to be, we had the same conversation. It's going to be dated. And I think it's just, you decide. I really think it depends on where your mindset is. I think the movie transcends the pandemic because it is just such a thrill ride, and it is at its core just a fun slasher film. So I think it goes beyond that. If you know, so we'll see. We'll see. We'll let the audience tell us.
I don't want to spoil anything, but just like for my own head, because I have to know, did you ever play around with the ending and the motivation?
Yes, we did. We played around with it several times. But one of the things that we wanted to do is we were all sitting around in the very beginning of the pandemic, just scared and uncertain with our own lives, watching TV all the time and not knowing what this pandemic was going to bring or when it was going to end or how it was going to turn out. And we just thought, well, what if we put a face to that fear and that uncertainty in the form of a man with a knife? And what might that look like? And so that's sort of is how the whole movie sort of manifested. And from there, we sort of came up with the rest.
John, I'll come back your way just for the setup and like the look of the film and everything, because I was reading that it was inspired by like 70s and 80s slasher movies, the ones that kind of established the traditional chase scene. So what are certain things about those inspirations that you wanted to uphold, but then what's something that you strove to do differently to set your movie apart?
Well, I think, like you say, the setup is familiar, and in many ways it is reminiscent of movies that, I mean, things that Kevin would talk about often, Friday the 13th, and movies that were, you know, kind of set on a lake back then. And then, of course, you have some of the great ones from the 70s, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. I think that my goal through this, and I think what we were trying to do is bring you into something that's familiar, and then let that serve as a way to kind of pull you in and let your mind kind of take you often in the wrong direction. We could kind of subvert your expectations, because that's always the purpose of it, is to try to, you know, show you something familiar, a dark hallway, an open doorway, and then what is going to be on the other side of it. And I think Kevin, who's such a not only someone who's done so many masterful films in this genre, but he's a true student of the genre, and at this point was my professor, if you will, because he knows this genre way better than I do. You know, I'm a fan of movies, but, you know, Kevin's specialty in horror, he was really able to say oftentimes, well, we've seen that before, or this has been done, and this has been done. And in some ways it's kind of embracing that and saying, okay, this has been done, but maybe we'll do it slightly this way. And we're always kind of calibrating the expectations of the audience. And I think look-wise, I think what we try to do is take a genre that is generally presented oftentimes in a very heightened kind of a heightened sensibility, and we were saying, let's kind of bring this almost down to a unsettling degree of naturalism where the killers are very much human, and the struggles between killers and victims can be very ugly and messy and almost drawn out fights at times.
I feel like that mentality makes your work even harder, that idea of it being grounded and real with all of these struggles. Gideon, I'll start with you here because we were just talking before. You have done some other genre movies before, but I believe this is the first like slasher type movie.
Yeah. I mean, I want to do everything, and the fact that my first slasher came from the mind of the slasher king in my book is kind of insane. I love that John wanted to keep it very real and natural. Like there was a whole talk about shoes, for example. Like, why would she put shoes on if there's a killer in the house? You run around barefoot all night. But I mean, I connected to this film specifically because I think one of my worst fears, actually, during the pandemic, being in a house with my family, all women, I would think about someone breaking in. Like, everybody's in their houses, they're going crazy, you know? It's kind of crazy, but yeah, this was quite a wild ride. But and it was difficult for sure, but I had an incredible time, truly.
That answer is making me think. I want everyone to answer this. I think about this all the time because clearly I'm obsessed with horror, in particular obsessed with slasher movies. If you were in a slasher movie situation, let's say being chased by Ghostface or something of the sorts, what would be your greatest asset that would give you a chance to escape? But then also, what would be your greatest weakness that would probably do you in and let him get you?
Oh God. I'm about to expose myself right now. I'm like, so if you want to get me, this is what you have to do. No, I would say probably my greatest strength is, and I will say this on behalf of all women, going around the world as a young woman, your fight or flight is a lot stronger than you think it is, and a lot stronger than everybody else thinks that it is. And it was something that was so exciting to figure out, also with somebody that I trusted so much, like coming into this, and with John, who made us feel so safe on set, and with Kevin, who was so generous with the characters that he gave us. I feel like it really felt like a survival movie from like, what does it look like when two young women on 5'5" or under. I'm exaggerating. 5'5" or under.
I'm not
you
even
know, like
5'1".
Are put in these circumstances. That is acting. And as two young women who grew up in the pandemic, like literally my senior year was cut short from NYU because of the pandemic, and to be able to put all of those feelings of uncertainty that I hadn't really worked through. None of us had really worked through it, but like working through it on camera was something that firstly brings you so much closer to yourself, everybody else on set, and also the grander community of everybody else who's going through this. But at the same time, it's just badass. I'm like, it's about time you find two 5'5" and under. I hope one of y'all try me. Y'all saw what I did. Well, you will.
Well, what they did so great with John and these actresses is they don't make one dumb move in the movie. And that was very important to Katelyn Crabb, who was the co-writer of the script. She was like, we have to go through this and make sure that every decision made is the very next smartest decision in the moment. It can be impulsive, it can be erratic, but it has to be the smartest decision in the moment. And you pretty much hold true to that. They go here, and then they go here, and then they go to C, to D, to E, and it's one long extended chase scene, but there's no wrong moves made. Like, you can support and argue every move and decision they make in the movie.
And I also have to, like, it doesn't seem like it's calculated. Like, we've been here before. It's just genuinely like, okay, Parker knows this house really well. This is her best friend on the whole entire planet. She's going to do anything to save her. And
this happens all in one night.
It flows so well. And yeah, it is. They don't make one dumb move. I don't know if Gideon could pull. Yeah, she could do it, but Parker could. Miri could.
Definitely.
Can you survive a slasher movie at this point?
You know, I'm very defensive, so I believe in defensive sleeping and defensive Home Alone, defensive, like, you know, I check my closet, I go through the shower curtain, I do it all. I'm that person. Process. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and I still do it. It is a ritual. And so before you go to bed, you just check the house. It's as simple as that.
Okay. I feel like that was like the 101 that maybe I needed to put my mind. I like when your movies keep me up at night, though, so I'm not going to check
Well,
anything.
where you stay up all night, you don't have to sleep, so don't worry.
Yeah.
There we go.
Going back to what you two were just kind of talking about here, I'm curious, what is it like making sure that we kind of feel who these two characters are when it's such an action-heavy piece? Is there anything you could be doing during the stunt scenes that still conveys to us who they are and what their relationship means to each other?
I can think
Yeah.
of something right
Yeah, go
away.
ahead.
When Miri I'm allowed to give things away right now.
Maybe not like
Okay,
super
Okay.
spoilers.
Okay.
Just lightly.
There's a moment where something pretty painful happens to her, and I'm
She
in
likes
the
a
middle,
bath.
and I'm in the middle of a chase with the killer, and I make sure to come outside and tell her to stay in place and that I love her. And you see that tenderness between them. And I think that moment was, I mean, it's very stressful, but you know, it just shows like, you're going to be okay. I promise you. And I'm going to come back for you. I'm not going to let anything bad happen.
And I think that's what's so, like, going off on that, it's the relationships. It's entirely the relationships that they talk about, like how comfortable they are. I feel like for me, what was really important is, as college students, the people that you make as you're becoming an adult are your chosen family. And I feel like that is a question that we were constantly like I feel like exploring at the same time as me and Gideon were also getting to know each other, that like in these moments there's fight or flight for you, but there's fight or flight when your family is involved.
yeah, and you really are Parker's sister.
Yeah.
Because of her history. Like,
And they're intelligent women, and so in this moment to have to make sense of your emotional intelligence, also just your pure I'm a human, I gotta survive intelligence at the same time, whilst having this like high stakes situation, this clock is ticking, this person can be anywhere. It's I feel like that is what carries
and
the
it's
movie
trust.
through.
There's a lot of
It
trust.
plays also into the larger responsibility theme that sort of runs through the film, which is we were trying to sort of talk about what was happening in the world around us, about should we be wearing masks, should we not, what responsibility do we have to ourselves and to the world around us, and we just put that all down into a relationship between these two women and their responsibility to each other to express the greater theme.
We haven't even discussed the fact that this is your first feature.
Yeah, boy.
Oh my, you just jump into the deep end, why don't
Yeah.
you? Is there anything, having gone through the process, that now makes you say, I'm so glad my first was on that set with those people
my
in
God.
this genre?
All day, baby. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm so grateful to say that this is like my first set family, because I feel like I didn't know what I was getting into, and for me, I take my work very seriously, and to be given this opportunity, I did not take lightly. But on top of that, I am never gonna get my college years back. I am never going to be able to. It felt like that important to me. When you read the script, it's not just a slasher. This is real life. We all went through that communal trauma, and to be like, wow, I get to make art about this. Also with people that I trust and that I look up to, that I've always looked up to, is like, I mean, an opportunity of a lifetime. And it's also 30 days of like night shoots, and baby, you don't get funnier than when you are up for 3 days in a row.
And I don't think anybody laughs as much as they do when they're on a slasher set.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of giggles.
For both of you, the first slasher movie, what advice would you give, or what tip or trick would you give to another actor about to jump into their first like chase-driven slasher movie?
What
Stretch, probably. Do a lot of recent
Yeah,
stretching.
honestly.
We didn't get that one.
Just commit. They are so committed to what they're going through in this film. It's just so real and authentic. I mean, I keep forgetting it was your first movie.
It's incredible.
And that is a great point, is that, I mean, I think, and that's why we cast these people, is because for something like this, the fear that the audience is going to feel is directly related to what they're presenting. And they have to do it take after take after take and sell the peril of this. And they're not playing superheroes, they're playing real people. So they have to play this in a very vulnerable way, and they have to be sometimes just breaking down and crying because you're so afraid, and then mustering the strength and all of that. And they never shied away from just going 100% every time, and that's what you need to sell this. And I think in one point about this project in my mind, and what attracted me to it, is that in many ways I feel like it's actually a thriller masquerading as a slasher movie, in the sense that the setup is very much slasher movie, but traditional slasher movies have kind of an opening like our film, and then it goes into one by one people are getting knocked off and no one is really aware of it until the third act. What was clever to me about what was on the page in this is that this is just two people away in a house, and
Figure it out.
very soon they're wise to what's going on, and we are now launched into kind of almost a seemingly real-time just fight for their lives chase that in many ways the film skips the second act and goes right into the third act. And to me, that's why it's a thriller, because a thriller really depends on you imagining horrible things and waiting to see what if that horrible thing happens. And this movie keeps you imagining what's a horrible thing. I mean, there's these two wonderful people, and hopefully you don't want either of them to perish, but if you've watched enough of these, you assume one of them's going to. So who's it going to be? And that kind of pulls you through the movie. So I felt like that was one of the clever ideas from the get-go that I love, that you can just get launched into this chase that goes on and on.
And it's way more intimate because it's such a small cast, because there aren't so many people. And I feel like there usually is there's a large amount of people in a slasher film, and this is totally different, and there's a lot of trust between them. But the adrenaline that you feel while you're filming it, like you're in it, you're there, it's happening to you. Yeah.
I would also say, like, I feel like matching the energy of your other cast members and the circumstances that you're given is really important in terms of like going there. And also, like, I feel like we were also very lucky in the sense that there are very real circumstances that we were quite literally just come out of. And so there was a lot of unpacking that we had to do just in general with the movie that we were able to do, again, like on screen. So I would say, just for any actor, take care of yourself when you're not there, like really like let yourself go and relax. But when you're there, like that is where your heart and focus should be. And honestly, just have fun.
Doing a slasher is the best
the
form of
funnest
therapy.
thing ever.
It's
I
the
would
best
believe
form
this.
of therapy.
Like, really.
I have to let you guys go, and it's breaking my heart right now, but you know what I'm doing now. I need to ask you a Scream question. I feel like I could have like a mile-long list and keep you here all day, but one of the ones that I really want to know your take on is whenever it comes to like the most iconic slasher franchises, I feel like people often roll their eyes when they continue on and on and on. However, because Scream evolves as the genre in general evolves, it makes me think that it could go on and on forever. Is that how you feel about the franchise's future?
Yes. At first, I thought maybe I might have thought the opposite of that, but now, since I've been proven wrong repeatedly, and this last Scream was such a pleasure, I think one of the wonderful things about Scream is there's a different killer in every film, whereas we in most, Halloween and Friday, there's Jason, there's Michael, there's Freddy, they don't go away. And we actually, Ghostface changes with every movie. And so we have an opportunity to change the motive and change the story. And we can always twist and turn it. And it's set up to be sort of this, it was meant to be sort of a game changer all along. So the trick is, how do we keep game changing? And I think this new team that I'm working with are awesome. They're absolutely amazing. They're wonderful human beings. They're talented, and it's just been a pleasure to be a part of this new regime. So
one of the ways you game change is you put Ghostface in a big city. The thought of what could happen when you do that is blowing my mind right now.
Ghostface Takes Manhattan.
Oh no! I mean, if they called the movie that, I would legit watch it too.
No.
I like Jason Takes Manhattan.
I think
maybe more than I should.
there's a joke in there.
Okay, I would hope so. I have to let you go. Huge congratulations on Sick, and thank you for being here today. To everybody out there, keep an eye out for the movie and stay tuned for more TIFF 2022 interviews coming your way very soon.